And tonight, we are breaking some news of our own right here on this show. A major whistleblower investigation has exposed new ethics problems inside the Veterans Affairs Department. Joining us right now to tell us why this news is important is Jason Foster, the founder and president of the very important whistleblower group called Empower Oversight. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Okay, so for our audience who hasn't had a chance to go to justthenews.com and read this story, give everybody just kind of an overview of the allegations, the investigation, and what the Inspector General ultimately found.
Sure. So early last year, some whistleblowers went to Senator Grassley's office, my former employer, and they disclosed to him some conflicts of interest that were going on at the Veterans Affairs Administration. So basically, the story is a senior official there who's in charge of GI Bill benefits was married to someone who had a contract relationship working for an outside left-wing organization that often has business before her. They're often advocating before this official, and they were often seeking contracts and MOUs and access to data that they could use to raise money. And so it presented what was, a pretty obvious conflict of interest. A government official whose spouse is involved in business that they're making official decisions on, that's not appropriate, and it should be disclosed, and there should be steps taken to mitigate that conflict of interest. So Senator Grassley wrote to the VA and asked about this and a whole host of related issues. And the Inspector General opened an investigation late last year. And they just finished early last year, and they just finished their report and put it out yesterday, which substantiated most of what the whistleblowers had told Senator Grassley's office, which was that indeed this senior VA official who was in charge of GI Bill benefits was making decisions on matters that were related to her husband's employer and her husband's clients. It took much longer than it should have to get to that truth, but it's finally now out, and the basic facts are pretty clear in the IG report, and it's a pretty egregious conflict of interest. We at Empower Oversight had issued FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests to the VA last year, trying to get to find out why they were ignoring Senator Grassley's letters, because he had sent 2 or 3 letters on this issue and had never gotten a response. One of the things that we learned was we got a document through the Freedom of Information Act that showed that the agency had actually gathered all the answers to Senator Grassley's letter, but then they didn't send them. And the copy that they provided to us actually redacted all of those answers. So we have appeals going on with the VA, and we're going to continue pushing for more transparency. But essentially, the story is, this VA official did have this conflict of interest. It wasn't properly disclosed. It wasn't properly dealt with. Her supervisors knew about it. And now, as is typically the case in these matters, and John will be familiar with this pattern, she resigned in the middle of the IG investigation. In fact, refused to cooperate with the IG. That's one of the findings in the report, is that she didn't fully cooperate as she was required to do as a VA employee, and actually resigned rather than complete a second interview with the IG about all these issues.
Just amazing. Jason, you've been in this town a long time. You were alongside Senator Grassley for some of the epic whistleblower cases of the last quarter century. But there seems to be this extraordinary drop in concern about ethics. And when I say that, I mean, listen, we know Hunter Biden had no problem jumping on Air Force Two, going to Beijing, cutting a business deal with his dad at his side, or taking on the Burisma thing while his dad was in charge of Ukraine policy. But in Congress, we see spouses that are cashing in on their congressional members' fame or policy positions. Have we gotten so far from the Watergate era, the reforms of the Watergate era, that Washington just yawns about these very important requirements that elected officials and bureaucratic officials are supposed to find?
Well, yes, a lot of the time. Part of the problem, though, is it sort of depends on whose ox is being bored, right? Sometimes there seems to be a very aggressive pursuit of ethics questions, which is usually too often politically motivated, right? In this case, there isn't a political motivation behind it. The whistleblowers, who brought these issues to Senator Grassley, they don't have a political view that's contrary to the current administration or the previous administration. It was about fair treatment, and there's often a double standard where some people get away with a lot more than other people get away with, whistleblowers in this case, they saw that double standard and they wanted to do something about it, and that's why they made the reports that they did.
Jason, corruption is endemic to politics and Washington, D.C., but call me nihilistic, I feel like corruption has spiked in the last 10 or 20 years. Why haven't the number of whistleblowers gone up?
Well, there are a lot of barriers to blowing the whistle safely. And retaliation against whistleblowers is extreme. Once you've put yourself in that position and you've risked your career to speak up and do the right thing, it can put you through financial, emotional, and all kinds of other trials. A lot of people just make the decision that, it's not worth it. And it's hard to fault them for that when even when the laws are in their favor, getting the laws enforced even-handedly and equally is often very difficult. And if nobody's watching and nobody's paying attention, then it just doesn't get done. I mean, in this case, for example, one of the unanswered, the IG did a pretty good job, and I'm glad they put out the report that they did and they exposed what they did, but it's only a narrow slice of what we know to have occurred. And one of the things I'm going to be doing at Empower Oversight is following up, and continuing to ask hard questions of the IG about, for example, why it didn't open an investigation into this very clear conflict long before it actually did. The only reason they did anything, it looks like, is because a U.S. senator started asking about it. Well, they should have opened it when the whistleblower originally contacted them or when they originally learned about it from the whistleblower reports inside the agency. That's why whistleblowers don't come forward, is they don't have a faith that anyone's going to listen to them or do anything about it. So therefore the risk isn't worth it. It takes, you're taking a risk to stick your neck out there. And if you think that nobody's going to do anything, then you're less likely to take that risk. And unfortunately, the Veterans Administration, has a long history of not doing a good job of listening to and reacting to and fixing the problems that whistleblowers report.
Yeah, there's so many whistleblowers that were left at the side of the road. Fortunately, your group has really stepped up. It's only about a year old. It's already making enormous impact, whether it's at NIH and all the things you're doing there, here at the VA. If someone's in government right now, they're watching this show and they know of wrongdoing in the Biden administration or just in a bureaucratic agency, how can they engage with you? How can they engage in a way that actually brings about change for the American taxpayer, for the American voter?
Well, that's what we're focused on helping people do. So, they can go to our website at empoweroversight.org, and there's a link there where you can contact us. You can contact us securely and confidentially, and we're not going to disclose your identity to anyone without your permission. That's the promise that I've made to whistleblowers for years and years when I was in government, and now in the private sector doing similar kind of work. We can't help everybody, but we will help as many people as we can, and we look at all of the reports that come in, and we sort through them. And if we can't refer you out to someone else, and if then we'll do our best to help you. Or but we appreciate everybody who contacts us.
Jason, we appreciate you so much. It's really important work. And, as Americans, we look at all of the government agencies and the corruption that abounds within them. And at least Veterans Affairs, I think so many Americans feel like if we can at least get one organization or agency on the up and up, it's got to be Veterans Affairs, because we've got to take care of our veterans. So, Jason, we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.